I emptied all the bottles and about 80 pills. I started sort of slipping in and out of my body not long thereafter. The ambulance came and I was sort of going in and out, in and out, in and out. In the ambulance, I remember nothing. I was gone for 11 minutes when I got to the hospital. And then I remember sort of waking up out of my coma and being like, everything is different.
Hi, welcome to Enlighten Me. Today's guest is Jana Stern. We're so excited to talk to you today. And I am Katie, and this is my brother Adrian. And we're just happy to bring you a new guest, Jana Stern. Take it away, Jana.
So nice to be here. And thank you guys for having me. As Katie said, my name is Jana Stern. I am a psychic and an astrologer. And I think I started to really wear that cape in public after my near-death experience. My story of how it all came to be. I was a child of divorce. My father was mentally ill my whole life. He still is. Um, and the process of that was really, really intense for a youngster. I was 3 the first time he was hospitalized. I was 4 when my parents got divorced, and there was a lot of trauma and chaos around it. And I was always a very, very intuitive child. I could hear crystals, they would sing to me and tell me stories. And of course, hearing voices sort of got equated with my father. And I was like, ugh, maybe I don't hear voices. It's fine. Everything's fine. And in shoving that down and pushing down my gifts, things got really dark because I was sort of turning off my own light. And in doing so, things got really, really intense. I developed an eating disorder and it got very, very serious. And just after I told my parents that that was what was going on and sort of said, like, hey, I need some help, I realized that, oh, shit, I'm going to have to change my life. I'm gonna have to look at these things, and the size of it in my mind was too much. And, I had been diagnosed with my own issues of borderline personality, and they had misdiagnosed me as, bipolar because that's one of the diagnoses that my father had had. And in that process, they had me on lots of different medications, trying this, trying that, because I don't know if you've ever tried antidepressants, but it's not just like a one and done. It's like you try this and then that doesn't work. And this gives metallic taste and that makes you sleepy and that makes you awake all the time. And this makes you not feel good. And that one makes you want to kill yourself. And so that's what I tried. I emptied all the bottles and about 80 pills. I swallowed them down. And I called my brother and I said, can you come and get my dog? And he was like, "Why?" And I said, "Because I made a choice." And he was like, "Cool, you're gonna make another. Call 911 and I'll be there." So I called 911 and I started sort of slipping in and out of my body not long thereafter. Um, the ambulance came and I was sort of going in and out, in and out, in and out. In the ambulance, I remember nothing. I remember seeing my brother downstairs in my apartment and sort of being like, cool, he's here for the dog. I'm good. And then had I was gone for 11 minutes when I got to the hospital. And then I remember sort of waking up out of my coma and being like, everything is different. Um, and, while I was on the other side, I talk a lot about how um, sort of peaceful and safe it was, but also how much of a choice I was given to come back. I was young, I was in my early 20s. And so I knew that I was making an impact, that I was making a choice in choosing to swallow all those pills. And my guides and my ancestors, my great grandmothers in particular, both said to me, you can choose to go back. And I was like, oh, okay. What do I do? And I did, and I came back, and ever since, my mission and my journey has really been about um, being the bridge between the other side and this side, and allowing for everybody to understand that mental health is really it shows up because we push down the light, and that's not normal, and it makes us crazy to not connect with the parts of ourselves that are the most alive parts of us. So that's kind of like the Cole's notes to the story of how I got here. And yeah, now I get to teach and help and guide and love and do what I do to make the world a little bit more spiritually well and maybe more mentally well too. I don't know.
Can you tell us more about the other side? More
Well,
sure.
yeah, it was a piece. It was I always say it was like going home to a place that I've been yearning for. My soul was aching for peace. And it felt like that. It felt like time had stretched into everything and everything was gentle and airy and possible in that space. And I felt so unrestricted, like all of the conscious boundaries and limitations were gone in an instant. And there was such a feeling of peace that it's become like a huge part of my life to remind people that when they lose their loved ones, especially to um, suicide, it's because there is this desire that all of our souls have, and some of that of us have that desire louder, if you will. But there is a desire to return to that place that our souls feel so safe. And for me, um, it was like showing up at a big buffet table with all of my ancestors, all of my guides, whom I had been relating to in one way and another all my life. I mean, I believe we all do. Um, but it was a feeling of like support from the entire universe in a moment. And I felt so supported that I was like, I could do this life thing. I could go back and be a human and let the whole thing play out. And Lord, if I had known then what we are seeing and experiencing now, which I think on some level I must have, because time and space does not exist. And I had always had a knowing that a change is coming, a shift is coming, something is going to be different one day. And those on the outside, those who are fringe and strange and bizarre, we will have our time to come to the front and say, "Hey, your way sucks. Our way's better. Here's how we're gonna do it." And, it was sort of all laid out for me in that moment, and, um, it was as if they was showing me the not just a map of what's in front, but time itself. And they were like, "You can choose. You can go on and karmically return in some other way, or come on back and finish this." And I was like, I started. So, uh, came on back, and here we are talking about it, and it feels like a whole other universe that I'm in now, and I'm grateful that I chose that.
When you came back, did you feel at all depressed because you had seen such a beautiful other side, or because you were shown the changes that were coming and how the potential, for a better life, you felt okay to come back?
Um, I think both. I
Mm.
think in the moment when I returned, there was a lot of chaos in my physical reality. Um, you know, the the attempt on my own life had a big domino effect. I mean, not just like hospitalization and psych wards and that kind of thing, which I was like, "Oh, this is cute." Spent a whole my whole life being like, "I'm not my father, right? I'm not my father, right?" And then here I am in a psych ward also. Okay, fun. But uh I also was about to enter into a very intense program for eating disorders, and so and there was a lot of tension in the family because of the choice that I had made and all of the things that were going on, and so um, and there is a very, very deep, dense darkness to this reality that landing back in it feels really heavy, and hard. They're not instantly, but days later, I was like, "Why did I make this decision? Why am I here again?" And it was a lot of months of talk therapy and, you know, um, other treatments. I started doing EFT, I started doing, which is like emotional freedom and, technology tapping for those who don't know. I started diving into metaphysics. I found a spiritual psychotherapist who taught me about the world of oracle cards and, meditation and things like that. And my whole spirit needed to keep visiting that place and keep going up as much as possible to remember, no, I'm here in a body, but I will go back. I'm here in a body, but I will go back. And that practice was definitely pulling me out of a deep, dark depression that I think I was in I mean, I definitely was in it pre-suicide attempt, but afterwards, it lingered for a really long time, and it did change face. It did, transform because there was this feeling of, well, like, and we feel it now, like, I definitely feel it now, like, "Are we there yet? Are are we there yet? Are we at the time where people are good to one another? Are we in the space where we don't just rely on the way that things used to be, where we treat people like people no matter what they believe or what they do or how different they are from us?" And because we're not there, that's the thing that depresses me still, differently now, but, the density, the heaviness, the weight of the world, of this dimension is really, really thick, and it's sometimes suffocating a little bit. And, when I talk about things like, I believe that oxygen is a drug. I think that keeps us in this dimension, and we need it to stay alive, but we also need it to stay in this dimension because when you're no longer breathing, you're in a what are you, right? You're still a spirit, you still exist. You exist now, you exist in all time and space. That's how it is. And so being on oxygen, being in this body, there is like a heaviness to it that certainly can feel um depressive and miserable and scary and sad. But of course, there's also so much beauty here. And so, um, you know, a lot of the ways that I sort of remind myself about how magical it is to still be here is through nature and connecting with source and spirit as much as I possibly can in whatever way I can, which is why I do what I do.
I'm curious, and you seem completely enlightened now, and just and it's
Well,
beautiful.
ask around, my
Well,
friend. I'm still very human.
um, so did did people notice like a difference right away, or maybe it took a while for you to actually process first, and but I mean, it's hard for me to imagine
Mm,
you being depressed and suicidal, the person you're describing
mm.
sounds completely different than the person that we're meeting with right now. I'm just curious, like, how long did it take for you to let the real you
Mm.
surface?
I think I'm still in that process because, like I say, I'm still really, really human. I still have a lot of human experiences. Um, but I, I remember coming out of the psychic closet, so to speak, to one of my best friends. We used to live across the street from each other, and we both had pools in our apartment buildings. And one day we were sitting at hers, and I looked at her and I said, I can hear voices. I can hear spirit. And she was like, "That's wild. That must be so heavy." And I was like, now that you say it kinda is heavy. Um, but I think there were dozens, if not hundreds of moments where I let myself be weird so that I could pull myself out of what I was trying to fit into. And I think trying to fit in me was the me that was so contained. And now that I've really stepped in, and I continue to do it in many ways, I continue to sort of break molds and, you know, divert from the path and go against the grain and do things that maybe don't make sense to other people. And every time I do, another part of me awakens, right? Another part of me opens up. A couple of years before the pandemic, I went to Costa Rica and lived there for 3 months. That opened me so that I could be a different, more expansive version of myself. Every time I take risks, every time I do things that spirit says, "Go and do this," and I'm like, "Why?" And they're like, "Just go and do it." I'm always like, "Oh, right. Okay, cool. That's for my highest and best." Um, and so, decades of that has definitely helped. But in the beginning, which is I think where you're asking, like, how did it begin? It really was like I don't think anybody around me noticed necessarily, because I don't think I let myself fully feel it for a little while. Certainly, the chaos of treatments and dealing with the physical symptoms of like binging and purging and all of those other things was so. I was so immersed in it. I had 5 different therapists. Literally, I was in group programs, day programs. I was in evening programs. I was so overwhelmed with looking at myself that there wasn't yet space for me to be it. Um, and once I started to be it, which really did open, I received a healing. So my therapist, my spiritual psychotherapist, took me to a class called Enhancing Your Psychic Intuition. And she was like, "Do you want to go?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I want to go. That's exactly what I want." And as soon as that happened, it moved me in a direction of metaphysics. I received a healing called the life activation, which completely changed who I am. So much so that I was like, I got to learn this. And now I am blessed to be able to give it to other people. And I've seen it change hundreds of people's lives over the years. Um, that process really, really did transform who I was being so much so that you're right, that person who was depressed and miserable and suicidal and, um, shut down and just low, I could never go back to being her, even if I lost everything, God forbid, and, you know, um, had nothing in front of me. I don't think I could still drop into that space. I've had moments of darkness and depression and sadness since then, but I'll never go back to a place of "Get me out of here," you know?
Did you do you feel that, because some people have said that they they feel like they basically chose their challenge. They chose to come here and face some particular challenges to learn certain things.
Yes.
Do you feel that when you went to the other side that, okay, yeah, I chose this and I have something to learn from this. And so I'm going to go back, I'm going to face it, and now I'm going to embrace it a little more. Something to that effect?
Yeah, definitely. Like, that's what I mean when I say that I would have to karmically complete it someplace else. Because I very much believe that before we come into this life, we sign soul contracts with literally every single soul. And I don't just mean like you signed it with each other as brother and sister. I mean like you've signed soul contracts with the person who bumps elbows with you on the bus, like everybody. Um, so when we come here, I believe that we're all this is a school, Earth. Like we're meant to learn lots of things about what it is to be a human, to experience humanness. And my part of my mission was made very clear to me that I'm supposed to talk about exactly what I'm talking about. And I couldn't have spoken about it if I hadn't had that experience. And so I believe that that was in my contract to be able to have a choice, and I actually believe that of all people who ever choose to come close to death in whatever way they do, whether it's through illness, whether it's through, accident, whether it's through, self-infliction, it's in the contract. You're going to experience something that's going to bring you higher so that you can come back down and recognize, "Oh, wait a minute, this is all make believe. We're just floating on a rock in space. We gotta do better than this." Um, and so, yeah, when I returned into my body, it was so clear to me, and actually the weight of that message of knowing that there will come a time where I will be doing what I'm doing now, guesting on podcasts, speaking on stages, going and traveling the world and sharing my story, my gift, my knowledge. Um, the knowingness of that was huge, and it was very clear to me that each and every one of us have a contract to, fulfill, and if you don't fulfill it in totality, there will be ways in which those who are still here will feel the weight of the incompletion in some way or another. And so this is why, you hear a lot of times people on their deathbeds, they make these big declarations, they apologize, they say things, they do things that they're like, hold on, wait a minute, I'm down to the wire. Let me just fill out these last questions so that I get the A that I was supposed to get because I don't want to stay here. Um, and that really is, to me, very, very clear that the missions for each of us is so, so set out. And this is why so many people, and I'm seeing it more and more and more, are like, I have a purpose, but I don't know what it is. Right.
Exactly. I was
Find
just thinking that because I was like, you read my mind. Because I was thinking we all go through like a crisis kind of in life where we're like, I need to figure out my purpose. Like there becomes a time where it's like the last couple of years I felt like that. And then we started this. And then I was like,
Yeah.
I'm on the right track. I can tell I'm on the right track.
I can relate with that as well. And I mean, part of what I love about this is I feel that this meeting with people like you accelerates our growth and our understanding.
Yeah.
And where I do feel that, I always felt like, okay, why am I here? What do I need to accomplish? It in meeting with you and many of our guests, it almost feels that it shouldn't be a lot of pressure. It's almost like you said, like you don't know why your higher self is pulling you to Costa Rica or here or there, but you're just like, okay, let's and it's almost, some people have said, after their near death experience, they come back and they look at this more like a game and like, okay, let's just go along with it. Let's see
Mhm,
what happens.
mhm.
And its purpose is meaningful, it's powerful, but it's it doesn't have to weigh heavy on us to find it. It will, I think, show up if we let it. Oh, so
Yeah, try to relax into it, I think is the key. Try not to be like, I have to work hard, I have to do this, I have to make money, but just relax and let things happen. That's what I've learned recently.
Yeah.
It's really, yeah.
There's a capitalist structure that really wants us to work for it. Um, that is, thankfully, we're almost at the end of that, God willing. But um, you know, there has never been a flower that wonders what its purpose is. It just
Well, that's so nice.
spends its time in the earth doing its thing, being a tree for as long as it needs to be a tree, and then flower and death and rebirth over and over and over again. But it doesn't sit there wondering, like, am I doing my purpose? Am I purposeful enough? Do I smell good enough? That one over there smells different than I smell. Like, well, they don't do that. And we forget that we're nature. And this structure of the weight of where we are. And I believe that there are energies and entities that are in the firmament, in the energy that surrounds our planet, that is very, very controlling. And, there are many conspiracy theories that are like, oh, there's a cabal and there's this and there's that. And all of that is kind of irrelevant. There is an energetic force that keeps us dense in thinking, I got to work for it. I don't have enough. I'm not enough. I'll never be enough. I need to have this, I need to have that. I need to do these things. I got to have, whatever the thing is, right? I got to buy this house and that car and date these kinds of people and be this kind of, performance and make this kind of money and da 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 da. Da. And like none of that is real. None of it is real. What is real is the flower that's just growing. And, we lose ourselves. And it's funny that, you guys are talking about your purposes, conveying messages like this to people. The evidence and the stories that come from people who have experienced the other side for even a moment makes it so clear that this is make believe, that whatever it is we're doing is not real. Like the truth, capital T's, is so much bigger than the job you have and the things you do and even the people you think you know and love. Everything is completely made up by our brains. And the question then becomes like, what are like, not what are the thoughts that I'm thinking, but who's thinking them? And so when you're thinking about what is my purpose, ask yourself, who's asking, right? Because your purpose is to continue to find out what it is to be human. That's the only thing we need to do here. And that means being good to people. It means understanding like what somebody else is experiencing based on their lived experience. And how do we all meet in the middle somehow? How do we all find the balance between the left and the right, you know, whatever polarization, fill in the blank here, because the truth lies always in the middle. It's not black and white, it's infinitely gray, right? And so we really, really need to focus on that. And it seems to me that the two of you in doing this podcast, yeah, for sure, Katie, you feel this way in doing this podcast, they're saying end result of purpose in this lifetime. You're on the track, on the path, both of you, to getting where you want to be. Though I can feel it's different for the two of you.
Yeah, I mean, even though we're doing this together, we are quite different in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
Yeah. So,
Are you
yeah.
twins?
No.
No, no.
What's your age gap?
3.5 years or so.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what do you think the difference is
Between the
between
two of
that
you?
as far as our mission and doing that?
For Katie, it's opening up the portal for you to step into your own healership.
Ooh,
Um,
I love
and
that.
yeah, for Adrian, you're gonna lead something big. I don't know what it is yet. Um, I don't think you know what it is yet, which is fine. But you will lead something big. And you'll do it together, but there will be like yeah, you carry a yin and yang that works very, very well together. Like even when you guys were sharing earlier about, oh, she does this and he does that, da 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 da. Da, I'm like, oh, you guys are like hand in glove, like, and I feel like it's been that way for your life.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
I
so
agree.
funny. Thank you. Well, he is a go-getter, and he is definitely always on a mission to accomplish something big. So you're right there. And he's always worked really hard to learn constantly high tech stuff. And me, I'm just like, I feel like I'm a mama four, and I feel like I'm just about communicating.
You
That's
said
my
you're a mom
mission.
of four, is what you said? You're a mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
And
my
I
love,
feel
you are
like
so
just
you are so much more than a mom of 4.
thank you.
Uh-huh. Um, yeah, in knowing that, you'll be able to fully step into the power of what your presence brings. Um, Adrian, I feel like you don't question what your presence brings. I think you know what your presence brings. Or rather, you question it less. Um, but I do think that there's a clear path forward for both of you that lets you both fully understand the game that you're playing as you're playing it. Because I feel like you both are still quite taking it quite seriously to be here. You're like, well, we got to do the podcast and we got to do this and we got to do that. Yeah. And like the shift into get to, um, and understanding that they keep showing that like this is a small island that you guys are exploring and, navigating, like, you're circumnavigating the island of it, and you're, like, starting to feel now, like, "Oh, okay, we've explored, we got it, we know this space now." But there's, like, a giant chunk of land not far that you will, they're saying, rule, but not rule in the way of the old, of, like, kings and queens capitalism. I mean gently rule. Like there's a bigger space that you will rule that um, hasn't been built yet, but you'll help build it. And there again, that balance of like your nurturing and your love, Katie, and the way that you support and do and give and nurture and grow others and yourself, that provides like a really safe container, especially because your mother is gone, um, for you, Adrian, to really just like keep rising, keep rising, keep rising. And all of the skills that you have will make it so that it still feels like it fits in the future, not like it goes in the past. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
that makes a lot of sense. Part of part of my I don't know if it's frustration or I don't know what it is exactly, but yeah, my career has been in technology, and I felt that a lot of times I felt technology is at one end and spirituality is at the other
Mm.
end.
Oof.
And so what am I doing? Like technology is evolving incredibly quickly,
Mhm,
exponentially
mhm,
quickly. And,
mhm,
and, uh, either I keep up with it or or I let, all of my years of experience and education, all of that go. But I don't I feel like I should let go of the idea that those are separate ends of the spectrum. And, yeah, I would
yeah.
love to hear your thoughts
So,
on,
I'm
technology
laughing
versus.
because yes,
Yeah,
I'm laughing because yes, um, science and spirituality meet at the top.
yeah,
And your journey has been that perhaps if it's a mountain and you had a soul contract of knowingness that they meet at the top, what you did in your younger years was you ran up the mountain to the top of the tech and you were like, cool vista, what's down there? And so now you're like going the slow trek on this way and being like, whoa, this is way more fulfilling. The vista is not just more beautiful. I like myself more. Um, and what will happen at a point in your life, not far in the future, um, is you will figure out the way that technology, and there are lots of ways, actually supports spirituality. Because, the beautiful thing about AI is that it opens up space for us to not have to do those nitty-gritty bullshit tasks so that we can actually focus on our physical experience, right? So like whether that's like walking in nature, yoga, meditation, going to the gym, like whatever it is, just existing as a human. And technology is there to support us. And what we need in tech is not oligarchs who are making choices for humanity that probably want more capitalism and more slaves to feed the system. What we need are people who are heart centered to be like, wait a minute, how does tech support us as people to be better? And so, actually, it's not one end of the spectrum and the other. It really is like this, right? To get to the promised land at the very, very top. And so, I think that the more that you let yourself bring technology into your spirituality, or rather put spirituality into your technology, into your tech world, wherever it may show up, all the better. And to me, this is why I do what I do. I go into lots of different companies and do, everything from meditations to educational talks about spirituality, about intuition, about all these different things, because we need for those people to understand you are a person. This is Pluto in Aquarius, if you're into astrology, which who's not into astrology now. Um, Pluto in Aquarius is like all about what does it mean to be human, right? It's about transhumanism. So if you are in a body, if you are in a vessel, do you care about people who are still in vessels? And how are we creating collectively to support humanity, not the bots, not the systems, not not all of that, but how do we create things that support people? And thank God you are somebody who understands spirituality and tech because we need those things to meet at the top, because otherwise those who are running up the tech side of the mountain, unfortunately, some of them are a little, and they're dropping bombs on those of us who have been very, very spiritual, but not willing to climb the other side and not willing to understand the tech of it all, the science of it all. And we've been manipulated for many, many years. So it's great that you're learning all of this stuff. And the more you can actually bridge those two sides, that's what it's all about right now for you.
Great. That
Yeah.
that helps. Thanks.
Yeah.
Some people have shared when they saw the other side, they realized that they had some insights into some previous lives that they had been through,
Hmm.
and that right now they are at their mission is to be at Earth School and go through some lessons. So they
Hmm.
even we've even had people talk about there are some different schools and it's not all Earth School. So I
Yeah.
don't know if you have any thoughts around that, but if you do, I would love to hear what those would be.
Yeah, I definitely believe that we have the capacity to travel to other planets, other times in space. Um, I think that time, as we understand it, as linear experiences, is the one of the biggest lies of this entire reality. Time is absolutely made up. That said, respect other people's time because we only have so much of it on this planet. But yeah, it's completely make believe. And I have certainly visited with other dimensions, other spirits, other energies, entities, call them aliens, whatever you want to call them. Like, I believe that we are here to go beyond that. And I think that our experiences on this earth school are here and now, about understanding that, like, it really is just a school.
What do you think the future is going to be like? I know you said that there's going to be a shift, and
There's
we've
no
been
time. Oh, good. Absurd.
well,
So
our
future.
future, our future.
And that is I mean, almost all of our guests have said yes. Actually, time is
Not a thing.
the old time is a construct thing, uh, and that is something that's really hard to
Get you.
fathom because here we are linear on Earth School. What does tomorrow look like? What does the future look
Okay,
like?
two things.
No.
Two things. The first is about time being nonlinear. Um, it's very, very. I can break it down really, really easily. Um,
I want to
five
hear.
5 minutes when you're with somebody that you love and you are laughing. 5 minutes is a heartbeat. An hour goes by like that. 5 minutes in traffic is 7 eternities. You're like, what do you mean it's only been 1 minute? What do you mean? There's no possible way that this is just 1 minute. I got so many more minutes to go to get there, right? That is what we mean by time is not real. It is really truly what you are constructing it to be based on the experience and how much joy, pleasure, and wonder you are experiencing in the moment. The more joy, the more wonder, the more time is going quickly, right? This is why when you have children, you're like, weren't you born yesterday? How are you already doing this thing, right? It's very easy to see it in children because you're like, the hell, I invented you a minute ago. Now you're like driving. What the I was saying, right? So that would be the thing on that. Where it's going to go in the future, is, and I cannot stress this enough. It's literally a choice. Where it's going to go is entirely up to you. I'm gonna get a little tiny bit political, but not really. Right now, people are incredibly polarized. Either what's going on in the White House is the best thing that's ever happened to any civilization, or it's the worst thing that's ever happened to any civilization. And I promise you that no matter what you believe, you are correct. We are literally inventing reality. We are creating it with our minds. It says it in the Bible. In the beginning, there was the Word, and the Word was good. And what happened? The world was created with thought and sound. literally. That's it. And you, as a creator of your reality, you, as made in God's image, are absolutely creating the reality that is in front of you. So if you do not like what is happening around you, what are you doing about it? So, like, let's talk about things that are somewhat controversial in a sort of abstract kind of way. Okay. What happened in California with the fires is horrific. It is a literal nightmare. I can't imagine anything worse for people to lose their homes, lose everything they've got. And there is an infinite possibility of things that can be built from that. There are also theories that there are spaces where in the spaces where those fires happened, there are people with lots of money who have intentions to build new things. Trains, 15-minute cities. If we are not addressing all of these things and acknowledging truth, we cannot shift the creation from happening at us. We have to like rebel against the thing that keeps us down. And in order to create a reality where we don't feel like, well, can't do anything about that. Well, you can. You could acknowledge that, like, hello, what do you mean that these things are just happening? And we actually do have space lasers. And why didn't anything blue melt? Right. And I'm getting real conspiratorial here, and you can DYOR on it, do your own research. But there are things in this world that are happening, right? There are so many dark, terrible things in this world that can absolutely make us miserable, make us depressed, make this the worst possible existence, make this hell on earth. There really are things, terrible, terrible, terrible things that are happening every day, all day to people around the world, for sure. There are wars, there's famine, there's all kinds of terrible things happening. And we are also moving towards the light. We're getting more solar flares than we've ever had before. The Schumann resonance is off the chain. You can't even begin to figure out what the resonance of our planet is anymore because it's constantly going literally off the charts. Can't figure out where are we? Where is our planet going? We're going up. We're vibrating higher. Our literal resonance of the planet, which is typically 7 hertz, often shakes well beyond what we can measure on this planet, which means that we are evolving. And so if you're choosing to look at all of those things, but you don't want to acknowledge what your role is in it, which is to look, and you are not also choosing to look at the miracle of all that is evolving and the beauty that already exists, then you're going to have a bad time. And so, where are we going in the future? We're going exactly where you decide you're going. There will be in the future a cohort of people, lots of them, who will live in smart cities, who are very, very controlled by governments, by decisions that they are not sovereign to decide. And because all along they will have felt, this is happening to me, this is happening to me, this is happening to me, this is happening to me. And there will be a cohort of people who will live very, very free, and they will experience reality and all of the beauty that it has to offer because they will have continually asked, what is this teaching me? What is this teaching me? What is this teaching? And in understanding that this is a school, you can be like the flower. You literally can. But it takes so much work and so much effort and really choosing every single day, all day, relentlessly, choosing to meditate, choosing to be in your practice, choosing to like understand and live the spiritual truths that you know, and also be willing to go to battle for the light because there is darkness on this planet and the darkness needs to be faced. It needs to be addressed. And God willing, I hope for a future in which the cohort of people who are manipulated and controlled do not have to be manipulated and controlled. I pray for that. But I also know that there are definitely forces that propagate and propagandize so that we don't look. And that's a really, really intense reality to think about. But it is a possibility if those of us who know don't look. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's hard to know what to do, you know?
Focus on
Hard to
your own
know.
joy.
Yep. against things and hard. Are we supposed to speak our opinion? Because if we do, then everything is out in the open, and so we
That's
do keep quiet a lot about opinions.
yeah, I've stopped keeping quiet. I was never good at keeping quiet in the first place. I got a Leo rising. It's just not in me. But um yes, speak up on the things where you see injustice. Speak up on the injustice, no matter how much you love the person you're speaking to. If you hear them say something, you're like, don't say that. That's not appropriate. Don't be like that. That's incorrect. Speak up on it. But the thing you're supposed to do is focus on your joy. Focus on the things that bring unbelievable magic into your life. All of the things that are expansive for you, that make you laugh, that make you smile, that make you feel good. Do more of those things on purpose and do not feel guilty for doing them because that is how you continue to raise the vibration of all of humanity, but still have humanity in your heart, you know?
Yes, I agree with that, and that makes sense. It makes sense now. I think when we were growing up, we were we were taught doing things for yourself. I felt that we were raised in a way where that was very selfish, and you shouldn't do that. You should instead. It's better to be a martyr and better just sacrifice everything for other people. But I'm learning to agree with what you're saying and what a lot of our guests have said, and it makes sense if you think of it from the aspect of just simply being on an airplane and about to take off. They're telling you to put on your own mask first, and then those that, your children or the people you're taking care of, because we have to take care of ourselves first. We have to fill our own cup first. And in doing that, even with joy, it helps us to spread that joy and to spread that love and to spread those positive feelings. And for them to see, look, this is the difference it can make for me. This is the
Mhm.
difference it can make for you.
That's right.
Let's live this way. Let's look at life this way.
Yeah. And what are you breathing when that thing drops down? Oxygen, right? You're really being in the body. You're really staying in the realm. Stay alive, right? Do it. Stay alive. And the process of taking care of yourself, that mindset you were talking about is part of what that firmament energy, that containment, that density that I was talking about, that's part of it. Only in that dense vibration are you taught you're not enough. No, 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 no. Don't be joyful for the sake of being joyful. Don't just be happy. Don't just do what feels good. Give yourself. You're not enough. Sacrifice, martyr, right? Words. And it's been given to us and taught in this way that it makes sense to us. It is the norm for us. But in the old world, right? In the same world that I felt that density that I wanted to just pull the chute and get out of this body. In that world, it made sense. But in this world that we're in now, it's a different reality. We're in a different consciousness. Nobody can deny it. Okay. Post pandemic, there's no question. We are different as a species. We just are. And so where we're going needs us to be joyful and playful and be alive, breathe, stay alive, breathe on purpose, meditate, connect with your body for 11 minutes a day. Your whole life will be different, really and truly. You don't need to calm your mind and think no thoughts. You just need to allow that you have thoughts. And some of them are beautiful and some of them are terrifying. And all of them are here to teach you something. So that really, really is what it comes down to in the end. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Mhm.
So that is one of your techniques to enlighten ourselves. Do you have other techniques that you could teach us?
Ways
What
to
was that?
enlighten yourself?
Yes.
I mean, play. Just play, really and truly. The happiest people on this planet are the ones who just got here from source. They are children. Um, They are if you follow what they are doing, if you do as they do, you will live a happy life. Play, imagine, create, make art, make bad art. Don't care that it's bad art. Don't even think that it's bad. Um, you know, make believe, invent, imagine, pretend. Um, Ask why a lot. Question things, invent things, make things different. The more that we live like them, the more playful that we are in this reality, the more that we will start to feel like the flower. because even though you think that that flower is just sitting there, I assure you, when they speak and they speak loud, they are so fun. They are so playful. They are so, and you can feel it, which is why you love, like, people love flowers because they're just so happy. So, that's the point. Just be playful, meditate, connect with yourself, and let things be as they are. Really and truly, all of the most horrific, terrible, awful things on this planet and all of the most beautiful, expansive, magnificent, wondrous, magical things on this planet, they are all here for a function. They are all here to teach us some part of what it is to be human. Every plant, every tree, every animal, it's in the Bible, right? It says it right there in the Torah, right in the beginning, right? This was created, the heaven and the earth, plants and the animals, everything for us to teach us something. And whether you believe in the Bible or not, the reason it's so damn popular on this planet is because it's true. We just have misinterpreted it. It's been broken telephoned a lot.
Thank you so much. It was so
Yeah.
great to meet you.
Yeah. Really great to meet you, Jana. You have a great presence, great positive energy. Really a delight to be around.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And we'll make sure to include your website below. You're always welcome to come back and share more of your enlightened experiences with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye, Jana.